The most frustrating movement to learn and teach is something like this, any kind of hinge motion, whether it's more of a deadlift with the knees bending or more of a stiff-legged RDL with the knees straighter. So this will be a video primarily for those of you who are personal trainers and coaches, but any of you who are listening who struggle to hinge are going to benefit from this today. So the number one mistake that people are going to make when trying to teach a hinge is starting with motions like I just showed. Barbell RDLs, dumbbell RDLs, the traditional motions. Why? Well, because what the force direction of a bar is encouraging is not motion of a hinge. And what a hinge motion is basically just motion of the hips moving back and forth. It's not bending forward at the spine, although that's another fine exercise to strengthen the back. A hinge is basically just a variation where we're trying to fix everything from here to here and just bend around the hip, okay? And so the easiest way to actually teach this motion is to use force as a strategy to constrain people's body. So what do I mean by that? Well, if I take this barbell and I plant one end of it on the ground, and I grab the other end of it, I want you all to watch what kind of naturally happens to the bar as I lower, right? As I lower, the bar, specifically where I'm grabbing with my hands, is actually moving backward toward my heels. So at the top, it's gonna sort of fall more over my midfoot. And then as I lower, the bar is actually gonna slightly move in this direction toward my heels. And what that direction of force moving this way is gonna do is it's going to encourage my hips to move back, right? I literally cannot choose to move my knees forward from this position, or maybe I can, but it'll look really weird and awkward and not anything like we're intending. But as I lower down and just simply lower the bar to my heels, the natural tendency is not to round over at the spine, right? It's actually just to push the hips back, right? And so the number one mistake when we're trying to teach people how to hinge is focusing so much on getting people to think about, oh, how do I, keep this fixed, and where should my knees be, and where should my foot pressure be, and all those things. It's not that those things can't help, but when we're trying to teach people how to hinge, it's easiest to actually just use a force and a force direction that constrains the person and encourages the person to move in the right direction. So this is probably my favorite option here. I've literally done this with tons of people successfully, but understand that this is principle based, right? So what that means is that it doesn't have to be this barbell option, although it is really convenient and accessible. It could also be a machine-based option, which might even be better for many people, where you can literally, say, face backward on a hack squat, right, to where your hips and your knees literally cannot move forward. And to start to bend your spine in those scenarios is very, very uncomfortable. You could also do this on something like a Smith machine. If you have an angled Smith machine, you can get someone to face away from the direction of the angle so that their hips are encouraged to shift backward along with the direction of the bar. There are many different options, but principally all those different things are the same. It comes back to constraining the person so that they basically have no choice but to perform a hinge in the way that you would like to, right? And your chances of success are going to be much, much, much higher that way. Now, the cool part about this is when people learn to hinge in those more constrained scenarios, you can take them over to an exercise like a normal barbell RDL. And because they have learned, okay, this is where my hips go, this is the motor program for what a hinge is like, they can basically just start to do it in any scenario. Now, can you do it the old-fashioned way? Can you start with a barbell in the normal way? Can you do it with dumbbells? Absolutely, there's nothing wrong with that, and I'm not here to say you shouldn't do that if you've had success with it. But if you're a coach who's struggling to get people to learn how to hinge appropriately, start with those more constrained options. Start with options that people can sort of naturally fall into a hinge pattern with. Now here I want to show you all a clip from my online personal trainer course. If you're a personal trainer looking to level up their coaching game, click the link in the description below. If you're a personal trainer who's struggling to coach any motion in the gym, I have modules just like the one I'm about to show for every single kind of motion that you can imagine. I'm currently running a May bundle discount on the course, so check that out at the link in the description below. know after you watch this clip.
When it comes to hinging, and specifically machines, which provide some degree of anchorage in our motion, we can really take advantage of the fact that the machines, in essence, provide a form of anchoring in the way that they move. So here's an example. Someone's doing a squat on this. Some people call this the V squat, some people call it the hack squat, who cares? This machine kind of pivots like this, right? So the top of the machine, again, starts kind of over here, and I don't want to make this a whole dissection of this machine, so I'll be brief with this, but it kind of pivots in this horizontal direction before it starts to go downward. Because the machine is tipping that way, you can set up your client for major success very quickly in a machine like this because of how it's guiding your hips and your knees specifically to move. Really, in the case of the knees, how it's really not encouraging your knees to move. So here's an example of what that might look like, which many of you have seen, right? Because this machine, again, in this example, you see how this lady is higher up on the platform. She's keeping her knees a little bit straighter, and she's interacting with a different portion of the arc, really more so this top horizontal portion. And so as she hinges her hips backward, she's basically just moving the green, her direction of the hips, or the direction of her hips, in the direction of the machine. And so you're in essence creating a physical constraint, a physical block to where your knees can move and where your hips can move. And so this is basically a situation where you've set your client up for success without ever having to even tell them anything, right? Naturally, in this, some people will nail it first time. Some people may never feel comfortable in this machine for any number of reasons. But if you have a machine that can encourage a specific horizontal direction, and I'm going to show a couple other options here, that can be such a huge game changer. And much in the same way that if you were struggling to coach someone to do a dumbbell press, you could perhaps put them on a machine and they could get really good at pushing into the machine, and then they go back over to the dumbbell press. That's happened consistently with clients that I've had who struggled with the dumbbell press, where when they use the machine for a while and they go back to the dumbbell, they all of a sudden have this different and improved ability to coordinate the dumbbell press.